My stomach churns the second I walk through the reception hall. This whole thing is so not my scene. The cheesy decorations, the awkward forced mingling. My husband, Dan, is in his element, making the rounds with his friends, all of them half drunk and probably reliving college stories. Hey, you okay? Dan pops back beside me, that goofy grin plastered on his face. Yeah, just tired, I manage a smile. It feels fake even to me. I escape to the mostly empty bar and order a vodka soda. Might as well make this bearable. As I'm sipping, a guy slides onto the stool next to me. Kinda cute, dark hair, in that scruffy way that shouldn't be attractive but somehow is. Rough crowd, huh? He smirks, raising an eyebrow. You have no idea, I laugh. It surprises me how easy this banter feels. I tell myself it's the vodka. Turns out, he's some distant relative of the bride, part of the extended family I'm meeting for the first time. His name is Jake, or Jason. I'm already a little fuzzy. The more we talk, the more those cliches hit me. Butterflies, sparks, all that nonsense I thought I was beyond. He tells a joke that's actually funny and I snort laugh, drawing some side eye from a group of older ladies across the room. Screw them. This feels so good. Way more alive than I have with Dan in ages. He actually asks me about my work, my weird hobbies. Things Dan listens to out of obligation, not real curiosity. Well, duty calls, Jake says after what felt like 5 minutes but must have been hours. He gives me this half smile, and for a second, I think he might lean in and, no. He just nods and walks away. Disappointment washes over me, mixed with guilt, and something hotter, almost like excitement. It scares the hell out of me. I can't focus on anything. My mind keeps replaying the wedding, Jake's eyes, his stupid smirk, the way he made my stomach flip. This is insane. I'm married. What the hell is wrong with me? I try to shove the thoughts away, focus on my work emails, on dinner plans with Dan, anything. But Jake's face keeps flashing through my mind. Days go by, and I swear, it's like the universe is conspiring against me. I see Jake at the supermarket, of all places. He's browsing the cereal aisle, looking ridiculously handsome even in this fluorescent-lit hell, and I nearly drop my basket. He smiles when he sees me, that same half-smile that messes with my head. What are the odds? He says, and I mumble something about needing boring adult groceries. He chuckles, and there's this spark in his eye I haven't seen in years, not directed at me, anyway. My cheeks flush, and I hate myself for it. This can't be happening. Later that week, he pops up at my favorite coffee shop. The one Dan never goes to because he hates the hipster vibe. I try to convince myself it's coincidence, but the way he raises his cup at me like a silent cheers, it feels deliberate. My heart is pounding so loud I'm sure everyone in the place can hear it. It's like this game now, a terrible, addictive, thrilling game. I find myself going to his gym, hoping for another, accidental, run-in. Sometimes I catch his eye, and we exchange quick smiles that feel charged with a dangerous electricity. Other times, he doesn't even see me, and my stupid heart sinks. I'm obsessed, and it's both terrifying and exhilarating. Dan, bless his clueless heart, notices I'm acting weird. Long day at work? He asks, looking concerned. The guilt claws at my throat. I force a smile and say it's just stress. Liar. I'm the walking definition of a bad wife. And worse, I don't even know how to stop, can't even decide if I want to. Okay, so telling my best friend, Sarah, was a mistake. A huge mistake. At first, she lays into me like I expected. Calls me reckless, selfish, all those words I've been calling myself in my head, only they hurt way more coming from her. You're throwing away your marriage for a crush? She says, eyes wide with shock. The thing is, she's not wrong. But then, we start talking, really talking. It all spills out. How bored I am lately, how Dan and I haven't felt connected in ages. How I don't even recognize myself anymore. Sarah's tone softens a bit. Okay, I get some of that, she admits. But this Jake guy, it's not real, it's a fantasy. I hate how part of me knows she's right, but the other part is buzzing with excitement. Jake and I have been texting, casual stuff at first, funny memes, asking about work, but the undercurrent is there, getting stronger every day. The innocent emojis start feeling less innocent. The goodnight messages linger way too long. It's just texting, I say to Sarah, but even I don't believe it. The way he makes me laugh, the way I check my phone 100 times a day hoping for a message, this is spiraling out of control. What are you going to do? Sarah asks, and her voice sounds small and scared for me. At that moment, my phone vibrates. It's Jake, a simple, thinking of you, with a stupid smiley face. My stomach does that flip thing again, and I hate myself for it. I should block him, delete his number. But I don't. Honestly, I sighed to Sarah. I have no freaking idea. My hand shakes as I unlock my phone. One message from Jake. Should be nothing, but it sends my pulse racing. It's bolder than usual, something about my outfit yesterday, how he couldn't stop thinking about it. God, I'm pathetic for how much this thrills me. We meet that same night. Work thing. Is my excuse to Dan, who seems relieved to have the apartment to himself for once. Jake's waiting for me in a dimly lit bar, and the moment our eyes meet, it's like, I don't know, some switch flips. Before I can even think, we're kissing. It's desperate, messy, and everything I haven't had in forever. Guilt gnaws at me the whole way home, but not enough to erase the giddy feeling in my stomach. The next few weeks are a blur of stolen moments, texts I have to immediately delete, and lies, so many lies to Dan. You seem happier, Dan says one night. I freeze. Happy because I'm a total fraud, that's why. Every lunch break with Jake, every whispered phone call in the bathroom, every lie about late nights at the office, cuts a little deeper. I'm playing a role, both as the wife and the mistress, and I'm starting to hate both versions of myself. One Thursday, it finally all crashes down. Jake and I get careless at a hotel, a cliché as old as time. As we're leaving, a familiar figure passes in the lobby. My stomach drops. It's Sarah, my best friend, on some business meeting. I think I manage to duck out of sight, but the paranoia sets in. My hands won't stop shaking on the drive home. I know Sarah won't tell Dan directly, but the suspicion, the sideways glances, the worry in her eyes. It's only a matter of time before this whole house of cards collapses. Dan's usually the one who sleeps in, but that morning he's up at the crack of dawn. I pretend to be asleep, heart pounding, knowing it's only a matter of time. He's quiet in the kitchen, the clink of a mug the only sound. I can feel him staring at me, trying to piece things together. It's torture. We need to talk, he says finally, and his voice is flat, empty. The next few hours are a blur. He found the messages, not all of them, thank God, but enough. The stupid flirty ones, the ones where I called Jake hot, the ones where we made plans I never kept with Dan. Who the hell is he? Dan's voice cracks, and it shatters something inside me. He looks so broken. This is my fault. I try to explain, to apologize, but the words come out garbled and pathetic. Dan just shakes his head, his eyes distant. I thought we were solid, he mutters, and that hurts worse than any shouting could. The argument, if you can even call it that, is awful. There's no yelling, just quiet devastation. Dan doesn't beg or try to fix things, which is honestly worse. He's just done. I wish I could sink into the floor. The shame is a physical ache. But even through the haze of guilt, a small, twisted part of me still wonders about Jake. Have I ruined that too? Is he freaking out? Does he even care? I hate myself for even thinking that. Later that day, Dan's on the phone, voice low and muffled. His mom, probably. I can't hear the words, but I can imagine her reaction. The shock, the disappointment, the pity. The thought makes me want to vomit. Dan packs a suitcase. It's small, the kind he takes on weekend business trips. He doesn't look at me, just moves methodically, folding clothes with cold, precise movements. I try to speak, but my voice sounds pathetically small. He finally pauses, turns to me, and the look in his eyes. It's worse than anger, it's disgust mixed with this deep, gut-wrenching sadness. I got a hotel room, he says flatly. We'll talk more later. Dan, please. I start to beg, but he holds up a hand to stop me. Don't, he says, and his voice cracks just a little. It's that small break that destroys me. The door shuts behind him, and the silence of the apartment is deafening. I collapse onto the couch, sobs racking my body. I deserve this, all of it. I'm the monster in this story, not him. After what feels like hours, my phone rings. It's Jake. My heart does this stupid leap. but then reality crushes back down. What a mess. Hey, I try to sound normal, but my voice is thick with tears. Silence on the other end. What happened? He finally asks, and his voice is tight, afraid. I wonder if he expected a happy update? I almost laugh at the absurdity. He found out. I choke out the words. More silence. Then, a muffled curse. Are you okay? Jake's voice is softer now, but there's a distance in it. I'm so angry and humiliated all at once. No, I manage a bitter laugh. Obviously, I'm not okay. Before he can reply, I hang up. I don't need his pity or his panic. Right now, all I want to do is curl up on Sarah's couch and pretend none of this ever happened. Sarah's apartment smells like stale takeout and dog hair. It's a far cry from the home I shared with Dan, and oh God, do I even get to call it that anymore? I try not to spiral into self-pity but fail miserably. Days turn into nights. I barely eat or sleep, just exist in this numb haze. A knock wakes me from a restless doze. It's my mom, standing in the doorway, her face a mask of strained concern. Behind her hovers my dad, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. We need to talk, my mom says, her voice softer than I've ever heard it. The conversation is awful. My dad's mostly silent, just gives these disappointed sighs that cut deeper than any yelling could. My mom tries, bless her, to sound understanding, but the judgment hangs in the air. How could you do this to your family? My dad finally thunders, his face red. I don't have an answer. I never had an answer. It was stupid and selfish and then I think of Jake, and a bitter twist of resentment rises in me. Where is his family falling apart? They leave, my parents. There's no hugging goodbye, no comforting words. Just the echoing silence of their disapproval. A few days later, a thick envelope arrives. It's from Dan's lawyer. Divorce papers. Even though I knew it was coming, seeing it in black and white makes my head spin. We're officially doing this, dismantling the life we built, legally entangling ourselves from each other. Sarah tries to organize me, calls the lawyers, makes appointments, does things I can't seem to process. The first meeting with my own lawyer is surreal. He's a sharp guy in a fancy suit, talking about assets and custody. We have no kids, thankfully, in a clinical, detached way. It feels like it's happening to someone else. Through the fog, I realize the one good thing about this. Dan's also being practical. No screaming matches, no dragged-out court battles. He's as eager to get this over with as I am. There's a twisted kind of comfort in knowing we're both hurting, even if his pain is completely my fault. The first time I run into Jake after everything is outside the grocery store of all places. I'm fumbling for my keys, loaded down with pathetic, single-person bags when I spot him. He looks different, thinner, almost nervous. For a wild second, I want to run, hide behind a display of cereal. Instead, I straighten up and walk towards him. Hey, I manage, trying to sound casual. Hey, he echoes, looking awkward. How've you been? There's about a million ways to answer that, none of them good. Oh, you know, I shrug with a forced lightness, adjusting. A silence hangs heavy between us. I can feel people glancing our way. Small-town gossip mill is probably working overtime. Listen, I should probably go, he says finally, avoiding eye contact. But, it was good seeing you. It wasn't, but whatever. I watch him walk away, feeling pathetic and exposed. He was the prize, wasn't he? The reason for blowing it all up? And now here we are, making small talk by the milk aisle. That night, I break down. Sarah finds me on the floor, mascara streaked down my face, clutching a half-empty bottle of cheap wine. She doesn't even say, I told you so, just holds me while I cry. The next morning, with a pounding headache and a fresh wave of shame, I make an appointment. A therapist. It feels desperate, but I'm way past rock bottom. The therapist's office is all beige and calming scents. Dr. Evans is a kind-faced woman with gentle eyes. I take a seat and begin spilling everything. It all comes out in a messy jumble. The surprising thing? She doesn't gasp in horror. She offers no easy solutions. Mostly, she just listens and prods me with questions. What was I missing? What was I chasing? Why self-destruction over an honest conversation with Dan? The weight of those questions hits harder than any judgment ever could. I should have known staying in this town was a terrible idea, but where else was I gonna go? My job is here, Sarah's here. It's home, even if it feels like a war zone now. Everywhere I go, it's whispers and stares. At first, it was just awkward silences, but now it's gotten bolder. Cashiers giving me extra change like I can't count, old ladies at church shooting me disapproving looks. Yesterday, Karen, PTA Karen, Queen Bee of the suburban moms, cornered me in the parking lot. Just wanted to say, it takes real strength to find your own happiness, she chirped, fake smile plastered on her face. I could practically hear her gossiping with the other moms the second I drove away. The worst part is, Jake's facing the same thing. I overheard some guys at the gas station making crude jokes, and it made me want to crawl into a hole. Is this what new relationship energy is supposed to feel like? This mix of guilt and shame and being a public spectacle? Today, of all days, I run into Dan at the only decent coffee shop in town. We haven't really spoken since the lawyers took over. Well, this is awkward, I blurt out the second I see him in line. Dan looks tired. He hesitates, then gives me this small, almost sad smile. Small world, huh? We both order the same iced latte, it was our thing. His smile widens a little, then fades. For just a second, it feels like maybe we could just be for a moment, not exes with a mountain of legal paperwork between us. Then his expression hardens. I should get back to the office, he says, the formality back in his voice. As I watch him walk out, I realize something. The fallout is bad, but the worst isn't the gossip. It's the loss of that easy connection with Dan, the way seeing him tightens something in my chest that wasn't there before. My boss calls me into his office on a Tuesday morning. Howard is one of those guys who smiles too much, always going on about company culture. Right now, his smile looks strained around the edges. We're going to have to let you go, he says. My stomach drops. He mumbles something about restructuring and difficult decisions, but the message is crystal clear. Someone found out about everything. And suddenly, I'm not just an employee, I'm a scandalous liability. Walking out with a cardboard box of desk junk feels like a bad movie cliché. People look away as I pass, pretending not to stare. I just want the ground to swallow me whole. Jake's reaction isn't much better. When I call him, voice shaking, his first response is a panicked, "Is everything okay?" Okay? No, it's not okay, I snap, anger bubbling up. I lost my job because of you, because of us. Silence on the other end of the line. This isn't ideal, he admits finally, and even through the phone, I can hear his hesitation. Not ideal? I practically shriek. This is a disaster. His replies after that are a mix of weak apologies and excuses about needing to focus on his own life right now. The unspoken message hangs heavy in the air. I, the woman who blew up her marriage for him, am now inconvenient baggage. As I hang up the phone, tears of anger mix with shame. This is it, isn't it? Rock bottom. I've lost my career, my husband, my reputation, and now the guy the first did it all for is backing away like I'm contagious. It's a pathetic, lonely kind of rock bottom, and I'm starting to think that maybe I deserve